Ring light is hitting, the light is slapping, bro. Everything is just set, bro. Welcome everyone to another episode of Squord Academy Weekly Digest. Back again. It's been a long week. It's been a short week because Monday and Tuesday. I mean, for those in the US, for most people in the US, was off just due to the Independence Day celebration. So it felt like a weird week. It felt like a long week, but Monday, Tuesday was off. Before you know, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, like nobody went to do anything at work. So everyone was just vibing. So Saturday is here. I'm back again. But thanks again. Welcome everyone. My partner, Edosa. How you doing, brother?
Pretty good, man. You're right. For those of us that enjoyed 2 holidays, the week before was Muslim holiday, the Eid festival. Then this one was American holiday too. So we absorb all of them back to back, man.
Back to back, man. Back to back. I didn't get a Muslim holiday. We didn't get a Muslim holiday yet, right?
No. You didn't get it officially. I said me. I just I observe every holiday. Once Nigeria declares, America declares, I take it.
You take it
I take all of
everywhere.
them personal.
Shit, international entrepreneur. Well done. Well done. Well, yeah, but that's good to hear. That's good to hear. But
Yeah.
a couple of things happened this week. Funny enough, a couple of things actually happened this week, right? Which I like we had to discuss. Although it kind of felt like a show, but some things happened I'll be talking about, right? First things first, the one that probably happened towards the end of the week, which took the entire world by storm, was the rollout of Instagram threads. At least threads, but linked to Instagram, right? Because it's all Mark Zuckerberg's new project and how that's supposed to be the Twitter killer, right? So we'll talk about that, trying to see what exactly happened there. Then we'll also talk about the shocking, I don't know, shocking, but the shocking news of FDI dropping, being negative for the first time in about 30 years or so. Then I believe one of the co-founders of Payday, the COO of Payday, also stepping down after 18 months, and we'll round up, of course, with Wave being the only African startup on Y Combinator's top 50 list of companies by revenue. So diving right into it, right? I guess the first we'll talk about is Instagram rollout of threads. So I think on Wednesday, Wednesday or Thursday, I think it was probably Wednesday, there's an article that CNBC published the report that threads will be rolling out, and a lot of other media outlets published that threads will be rolling out. So at first I was like, what's going on here? What's the threads? Then reading more into it, it pretty much just said, yeah, this is supposed to be a heavy competitor for Twitter, and it was going to be accessible and made it available to those in the US by Wednesday evening, right? So in my mind, I was like, okay, this is interesting. This is very sudden. Like, what the hell is going on? But pretty much, we waited a little bit. I think it dropped at like 8 p.m. Eastern time to like 7 p.m. Central time, something like that. So just waited a little bit. I was able to get access to it, and I got into it, right? And dude, this thing is so similar to Twitter. Like the UI, and I know you haven't had a chance to download it yet, right? But like the UI is so similar to Twitter, right? Now, keep in mind, it's still like in its very early stages, right? But the whole point is, at least what Mark Zuckerberg said, right, is they want to create a more friendly platform, right? Something that's more easy to use for people, because there's this general feeling that Twitter has become a toxic place. It's hostile. People don't feel safe, right? So the point of Threads is to create a competing platform that could create that kind of safe environment for people to communicate and share their thoughts. So funny enough, it's picked up a lot of traction over the past couple of days. I believe within 24 hours or so, 24, 30 hours, they actually amassed about 70 million users. Now, that probably has to be the fastest growing platform in my mind ever, right? Ever. But then again, I think that's because they were able to leverage the user base that they already had on Instagram. Because the fun thing about Threads is literally it's directly linked to your Instagram account, right? So from your Instagram, you can literally just create a platform. It's the same username that you have on Threads that you have on Instagram. So it's directly to your Instagram. It's so linked to the point that you can't delete your Threads account without deleting your Instagram account. Right. So that's the only way you can delete your account, right? So you can delete posts and stuff, but like to actually delete your whole data on Threads, you have to delete your Instagram account. So that's how linked it is. And I think right now you can't even register like on you can't register as a non-Instagram account user. So like you need an Instagram account to be able to have a Threads account. Right. So that's how linked it is to Threads. But it's still very early. Like, for example, there's no DMs yet on Threads. There's no hashtags or trending topics on Threads yet. I think even the kind of video content mentioned is still kind of limited and stuff, right? So it's still very early, right? But there's this feeling that there's this new feeling that people just have been on the platform. Like everything is still nice, everything is still pure, people are still happy and stuff. So it just shows how much I guess people yearn for something new and fresh as opposed to Twitter. Plus, I think that there's certain things that Twitter needs to do. Another thing as well is the reason why a lot of people even gravitated more towards this whole Threads thing is because I think a day or two before before Threads rolled out, Elon Musk actually announced that they'll be limiting the amount of tweets I can view daily. Now I don't know what the reason for that is. I don't know what I really don't know what drove that decision, but you just have to say this is just perfect timing from Zuckerberg, right? The fact that everything's going on with Twitter, the fact that they announced that whole restriction with amount of views of tweets per day, and just dropping this. I mean, the timing couldn't have been more precise, man. So it's a new platform. People are liking it, but I mean, what's your take on this, man? But I think this is only going to make the fights between Elon Musk and Zuckerberg, the whole cage fight, more epic, man. Because you just feel, and there's a lot more that's going on that we can touch on. But like, so far, what's your take on this whole thing, man?
Yeah, it's interesting. And speaking of fights, I know that there's been news about like a boxing match between Zuck and Musk. So just wondering now, were they insinuating that this is the real boxing match, not a real boxing? That's the one. I think I mean, I remember we spoke about this before, Dapo. So, I'm also betting on, I like it because I think it's an even battle in the sense of Twitter has such a strong moat. People like it for a reason. Yes, it's toxic, but people kind of like the genuineness of it, the authenticity of it, and maybe the madness of it as well. But if you look at the other side, Facebook Meta, they have that data, they have so much intel through WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, that it's very easy for them, like they did now already, to get millions of followers in a new platform overnight. And with all that data on best practice, on algorithms, it's hard to see how they're going to fail in a new platform. So that's why I think both sides have strong advantages. So who will win, you get. But then trying to balance it out now, thinking about it, Facebook hasn't really done any new platform from scratch recently that has succeeded. Instagram was an acquisition, WhatsApp was an acquisition. You get all these acquisitions that they now built upon. I joke that Thread is almost like an aqua hire. Elon Musk laid off Twitter staff, then Zuckerberg just hired them gradually and built Twitter again. You get so almost giving him Twitter on a platter of gold, literally, without him having to pay for 2 billion. He just paid salaries. That's what he did. So I think it was a very strategic move. I appreciate how they were taking quick advantage of the situation. And every day, as Musk seems to be grappling with understanding Twitter and trying to manage it, these guys were behind the scenes moving fast. We should place a bet or something, maybe like 1 year out. Who wins this thing?
Yeah.
But I think success is maybe long term. But let's say in a year, what would they look like? Would Thread still maintain? Either way, it's an interesting fight to see, and for young cats in the game to learn competition, I think.
Yeah. I think competition is a beautiful thing, and at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, competition is only good for the end users, right? Because they get to get better products. That's really what it boils down to. So
yeah,
I'm not mad about it. Like you said, it was a very cost-effective way for Zuckerberg build a platform. My guy just had those who were laid off. The only problem now is I think, most of them talking about this is there's some breach in trade secrets or whatever. And I think they plan on suing Facebook, not Facebook, but like Meta as a company, right? For stealing some trade secrets and stuff. But I'm like, at the end of the day, like Zuckerberg is not. I mean, he's used to this kind of stuff. He's always getting sued up and down. I mean, whether it was Facebook or Instagram, bro, like he's always getting sued for stealing something. Like you said, the guy is master at knowing what to copy when it comes to social media, right? I mean, you could probably say he's a social media guru, right? At the end of the day, like he's been able to, whether it was Facebook. I mean, people might have different thoughts on Facebook and where it is today as a platform, but at the end of the day, like he built Facebook to where it is, right? Whether it was Facebook or Instagram or WhatsApp, like he understands how social media works, right?
Yeah.
I mean, no matter how you feel. So at the end of the day, the good thing I'll give him is some people might say he's always copying, but at the end of the day, another some people will say he's very quick to adapt it, right? So that's another way to look at it, right? I mean, he doesn't want to be stale. Look at they took Instagram stories. Oh, Snapchat went out the way, right? So at the end of like, and without that single move, without stories or whatever it is, when TikTok was really becoming the thing with short form videos and stuff, like, Instagram was like, oh no, we can't let this happen. They rolled out reels, right? Boom. All of a sudden,
exactly.
for them to catch up, right? And now TikTok is still there, but Instagram's reels are also really booming as well,
Gaining
right?
momentum.
So exactly. So that shows how they're quick to adapt. They're not trying to be stale. So with this whole Threads thing, they might actually keep up, right? Now I know it's slightly different because Twitter is the open platform. It's not as open, and it's literally open. I mean, open to the point that there's probably a lot of content that people don't even like seeing on there, right? When it comes to like explicit stuff, right? And which is probably one of the problems that maybe like Twitter has. That I won't say the problem, but like fuck, start bashing me. But I'm just saying like, which is probably one of the things that we don't care about when it comes to Twitter. I don't want to be that kind of stuff, right? But at the same time, it's some people's cup of tea, right? But funny enough, on Threads, that's something that people have been saying a lot, like that Twitter needs to find a way to like erase that kind of content on there. But I don't think that will ever happen, right? Because I mean, it's all like Elon Musk now. You know how he feels about free speech and stuff. So like, do whatever you want to do, right? But at least you know on Instagram is a kind of like a clean platform. They don't let you post anything of that sort. My feeling is that would also roll into Threads, right? The kind of content I can put on there. Now, my only concern, I'm not concerned, but like my only come out with Threads is maybe over content moderation, right? Like controlling, over controlling what you can say and what you can post and stuff. And maybe over time, people might get bored of that. Or yeah, might just get frustrated. That's the with a platform like Thread that's supposed to be for open communication. That's the only thing that I can see that might hinder the growth or push people back to Twitter. But besides that, I think these guys have the funds, they have the war chest, they have the resources, the data to sustain a platform like this for a while, right? So and they already have the existing user base. Like I said, the fact that they had Instagram there was just a no-brainer. They just moved everyone over, right? So it all depends now on how much they can sustain this. And plus at the same time, it's not gradually becoming two platforms that you can do stuff on. There's this. And brands want to market, companies want to market like so now like, okay, which one are we going to go with? There's Threads, there's Twitter, there's this. So it's becoming too many platforms. So I then be like, I don't know, like it's I mean one will remain victorious, or one has to take I don't think they can sustain high activities for too long. Because I'm sure if you look at Twitter's activities for the past 2, 3, 4 days, it's probably massively dropped. So and I don't think I don't think honestly, like I think it's going to be either or. I think it's going to be either because I don't see too many people communicating on both platforms at the same time because they're very similar things, right? So it's either these guys rise victorious or these guys remain victorious. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, what's your guess? Which one do you think will remain, or which one do you think will take up the most market share?
It's so full admission, I'm probably more on Twitter than Instagram. You get, so it's hard for me to, my bias, it's hard for me to imagine Twitter not being there again. But I think if you look at ad revenues, Facebook makes more ad revenues than Twitter. Instagram makes more ad revenues than Twitter. So he's been able to monetize all his platforms way more than Twitter. So as far as monetization, I think he will have that on lock better than Twitter. Maybe the users, it's hard. I'm let me be honest, I'm betting on Zook. I think I don't see how he's going to fail. As much as I want Twitter to remain, I just don't see how Zuckerberg is going to fail. So I probably have my money on Threads, even though I've not yet joined Threads yet.
Yeah, she did. I was trying to. I already joined, but I'm trying to get even the Squord account on Threads as well. I should
Yeah,
join.
we should.
I
We
mean,
should.
I've been on there.
I see that point because I know you are more active on Instagram than Twitter. So I look at that, you already have Threads. So
Yeah,
there's also, it's not a complete overlap. There's some people that were already Instagram active who would easily move over there. And that almost forms their own first real Twitter-like platform experience. You get. And so some people never experienced Twitter but experienced Instagram would very
that
easily
right
flow
there,
into Threads.
that right there is the point, right? In the sense that I've really never been active on Twitter. You know this, right? I mean, the only time I
Yeah,
was active was probably back in college, right? Right, and
yeah,
that was for because I went to markets and do all this stuff for like part-time stuff, right? So that's when I was active on Twitter. However, I've always been more active on Instagram. I mean, I've always used Instagram, right? So, and I have way more followers on Instagram, right? Way more followers. So it was a no-brainer. I was like, oh man, okay, this is nice. Finally, I can transfer my followership onto a different, I mean, onto a platform like that's like Twitter, right? So it was a no-brainer
yeah,
for me. Instead, I could just literally follow everyone that I already follow on Instagram, and they can follow me back as well, right? So yeah, so I see what you're saying. The fact I can just translate that kind of audience to a new platform where you can directly chat and tweet and stuff just sounds like a no-brainer. So in the short term, I'll probably use Threads more in the short term. But then again, they will only be able to sustain that kind of user base if they're able to develop the platform to have way more features and capabilities. Because right now it's
yeah,
still very limited. Like it is very limited, right? So they'll only be able to sustain that kind of user base if they're able to build up on what they already have and at least get it to what Twitter is today, as far as features and stuff, right? So
yeah.
but yeah, I don't know who I'm betting on. I don't know who I'm betting on. I'll remain neutral.
Boo, boo, that's too
I'll
safe.
remain neutral. I'm off for competition, man. So let's see what this competition yields, man. I'll remain neutral. I'll remain
Yeah,
neutral.
let's see how it goes.
Ask me by the end of the year. We'll see. So there was an article that I wrote out this week that the COO of Payday, Ogechi Obike, will be stepping down as the COO and co-founder. That she necessarily didn't specify the date or when she'll be departing, but it sounds like it was some kind of mutual agreement, right?
Mm.
I tried looking more into this to see where exactly what's going on. Doesn't seem like there's any kind of internal conflict or that led to this. So I'm not necessarily sure why she will be stepping down, but then again, I don't even think it's necessarily a cost-cutting measure because when you think about it, they just raised. I mean, they're founded in 2021, right? They're a fairly new startup, by the way. They're founded in
Yeah,
2021. They raised about 2.2 million pre-seed, right? When things were nice, 2021, right? So there is about $2.2 million in pre-seed, right? And they use that to grow scale. Then I think on March this year, there's another 3 million in seed round, right? And I think that round was led by Money Point. And the whole goal was to expand and hire more employees, right? Now, there's also a report that shortly after that, they struck a deal with Money Points as well on a cash and equity deal that placed them about under around $40 million, right? And Money Point came out to say, that was not an acquisition; it was just another some form of investment, like I said, to support them, back them, and make them scale. So I don't think these guys are necessarily cash strapped right now, because like I said, they just raised capital. So I don't think this is some kind of cost cutting measure. But I mean, what do you think? Do you think there's something going on internally? Because they also had out an acquisition offer from another company for around $50 million earlier on this year, and the CEO Favor Ori actually came out and completely debunked that, said it wasn't true.
Okay.
Then they did the whole thing with money points. So do you think there's something going on internally that we should be worried about, or do you just think this is just a random, just a CEO just saying, you know what, I probably want to move on and do something else? What do you think?
Yeah, it's probably the CEO saying I want to move to business school or something, or I want to go into painting. Yeah. I mean, that's what I want to believe, because I want to believe that when we hear news like this, we always assume dogfight internally and all of that, but there could actually just be change of direction and founders being mature enough to face up to it and step down. So that's the tidy scenario, and I wish that is true. But for people that like scandal, it looks like the makings of corporate disagreement. So maybe the other founders is more attuned to maybe an acquisition, maybe the difference in direction of strategy going forward. I mean, somebody is just stepping down. I mean, the board is supporting this person or the other person, and the other person kind of has to step down. That's what it looks like if you are assuming fight day. If you're assuming peace, I think the other scenario is just stepping up. But fight day, because because if it's peaceful, right? I think there would have been a letter. There would have been a letter to that effect, saying from her herself, right? Saying I'm stepping down because I want to pursue other interests. Blah 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 blah. It'll be more transparent. But when you leave it open ended, you're trying not to say the bad thing. Then we fill in the gap with the bad thing. But I like to say also, but if it's a bad scenario, then I also give them props, because it looks like a mature way of handling this. We've seen wars in the dogfight between founders, so it seems like things are getting more mature in the industry.
Yeah. No, I agree. To be fair, it felt like, yeah, because when I first read it, right, especially the headline, the way it was published, I was like, okay, I mean, what exactly is going on? Is this another fintech that is now being bashed in the public scene? Like always hearing one founder doing this, one founder being investigated for this,
Yeah.
that, right? So this is another case of that. And when I actually read into the whole thing, it just felt like, oh, okay, this is just a COO who is just stepping down, right? Trying to pursue something else. Maybe they've cashed out and they want to do something else, right? And then they've raised probably a significant amount of money in a short period, right? So they might want to move on to do other things, or maybe the direction the company is going into might be different from what they had in mind. But it felt like, because keep in mind, right, the whole goal is, the whole thing is, OBK is she's actually probably well known in this industry, right? I'm not necessarily well known, but like she's worked in the past with previous startups, right? So she was the head of partnerships at a growth platform and senior operations manager at Venture Garden Group, right? So she's done some stuff in the startup space, right? And when she got hired into, not hired, but like when she joined the Payday team at first, like she was very instrumental into ramping up their operations, right? And she did a great job of that and making sure that they grew, kind of like they finalized. She was really key to helping them finalize the business structure and their day-to-day processes. So she was very key in that part, right? Now, we can only speculate what exactly is going on, right? Maybe, like you said, she's taking a different direction, or maybe the company is trying to go in a direction that doesn't necessarily suit her vision, or whatever it is. But like you said, I don't think there's anything malicious here, anything like that. So it's really further digging into. So, like you said, we might just be reading too much into it. The next topic, which I thought was quite interesting, because we've kind of brushed over this in previous weeks, looking at the new regime, looking at this, looking at that, we're kind of seeing like a reduction in FDI from time to time. year over year, we're saying, okay, you know what, things are kind of shaky, new governments, new policies, and boom, the report was rolled out this week that for the first time in 33 years, that our FDI turned negative. That means that means divestment. It's not about it's low, it's negative, right? I'm like, oh my god, this is a problem, man. But this is your area. Please explain what is going on, man.
Yeah. I mean, so to start with, so FDI, foreign direct investments, this is literally the total sum of inflows that came into the country as long-term investments, or like call them, or sticky investments in the country. So you're not just buying shares in like, so for example, if I'm in Nigeria and I'm buying shares in Amazon or whatever, that's not an FDI, that's maybe FPI, as foreign portfolio investments. And that's literally the sum of total inflows that came into the country as sticky investments. So this is not just buying stocks in the country's stock exchange or whatever. Those ones are foreign portfolio investments. So if I'm in Nigeria and I buy stocks in like Amazon, Microsoft, that's counted towards like foreign, as a foreigner, investing in portfolio investments, foreign portfolio investments. But foreign direct is saying these guys came in to like, fund a private business, or like, buy or build a refinery, or, something sticky, something that's more direct, something that is, you can't just sell and liquidate the next day. There's a lot of stickiness to it. So the distinguishing between the two, because they want to know, because FPIs can go in and out quickly, but they want to really know, okay, the ones that really came in as a long bet in the country, you get. So we've been tracking that in Nigeria for a long time, and we've been improving. That's why this news is kind of sad. 2019, we're at 2.3. We went slowly to like 2.5. Then 2021, we're at 3.3 billion, dollars in, foreign direct investments. Now, this 2022, which was last year, the results came out that, look, we were negative, not just low, not that we declined, but negative. So negative means people that were invested were divesting, selling out their shares, liquidating, and like, for you to divest, like let's say you're part owner in a refinery or a manufacturing plant, for you to go through all that hassle of selling out your stake, and it's no surprise because that 2022, I know ShopRite announced their move. Many foreign oil companies were selling some of their oil fields, their interest in oil fields. So they had lots of exits. And we'll be lying if we say we're not expecting this. The year before 2019 election, 2018, there was a decline as well in foreign direct investments. So it's a pattern that every year, or so far, looks like every year before election, foreign direct investment dips a little bit. It typically just slows down because people just say, okay, let's calm down. Then the year after election, meaning this 2023, usually spikes back up. But the fact that it was so low that it became negative last year from 3.3, whereas we're just enjoying a steady 3 years of consistent increase in foreign direct investments, and just jumps boom to in 2022. That's scary. You get, and that makes me a bit skeptical that we'll see any magic this 2023. Now, obviously, from negative, you have to be positive the next year. Like, we just have to be back to a good number for 2023. But to 3.3 billion, I doubt we will hit that anytime soon, which is quite sad, for prospect of the Naira and prospect of Nigeria. Another interesting angle to this, Dapo, is that, and I wish one day we should have to have our resident economist on this call, Tayo, because Tayo and I were talking about how, because of the Startup Act and all of those formalization, that startup investments will start adding towards FDI. So as you know, when you invest, most Nigerian startups are maybe Delaware Incorporated or Ireland Incorporated. So when a YC invests in those guys, is YC moving money from America to America because it's Delaware investments, you get. So it doesn't count towards foreign direct investments. But there's been some modalities of us trying to work around the technicalities and count that as a Nigerian investment, because sometimes the Nigerian startup will have maybe a Nigerian subsidiary, then they move the money from Delaware and US to the Nigerian entity. So how can we start counting those flows? So we're expecting to see that in the working sheet for this year, for 2022. So we didn't see that. Maybe next year, But we can have Tayo on the call one day to literally go in deeper on what that looks like for Nigeria. But in summary, scary trend, very painful that we missed 3.3 billion, and very scary for the prospect of the Naira if foreign investors are running out quickly. But I don't know. What do you think, Dapo?
So that's fair. I think, I guess, I gotta ask you, do you think there has to be more to what's going on? The reason I'm saying that is because when you look at our divestment this year, or our FDI this year, sorry, it's a negative $187 million, right? So that pretty much means, like you said, there's either some level of divestment in assets or discharge of liabilities, right? That's pretty much what's going on, right? As opposed to previous years. But then again, when you look at the overall picture and look at other countries, the likes of South Africa put in about 9.05 billion. Morocco put in about 2.14 billion. Senegal had about 2.59 billion. And Egypt was the highest, right? That had about $11.5 billion in FDI for last year, right? Now, I don't think a company necessarily has some kind of presidential election of that sort. But even when you look at that picture alone, we've never had this negative FDI, right? Presidential election. Like I said, this is the first time our FDI is negative in 33 years, right? Yep. So I feel like there has to be more to this whole thing. Maybe you might say the overall economic climate with conflicts here and there, friction here and there, the narrow design, this thing is going on, this is going on. Maybe investors were getting completely tired of the fact that we're floating our currency and seeing how hard it is to like exit your investments. Or you can say the global economic climate with people trying to let go of their investment and stuff. But you cannot say that because you cannot have these things in isolated cases because it doesn't. Then now have to question. Okay, then why are these other African nations pulling so much? There, right? Why is the odds that's not just low, but all the way from 3.something billion, 3.31 billion in 2021 to negative 187 million, dude? Like that's a huge decline. It's not like there was some kind of there was like zoom all the way negative from 3.31 billion. So like, do you think there's just more to this that we're not seeing on the outside?
It could be, but and what we can see, is what we can speak of, and we saw a lot of things happen. It was a weird cocktail. First of all, I think the largest kind of FDI in Nigeria is oil and gas investments, right? Because I would actually being hard cash to invest in in new fields, new projects, and you see machinery, equipment, and even talent shipping into the country, right? So when you have all of that coming in, then you have it. Then you have the trend in the world where you're saying moving away to clean energy, all of that kind of stuff. And those guys are divesting. Then it's a dangerous combination. You get? It's very dangerous.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I don't know. Like it was a hard one to take in, man. Because I know, yes, we've talked about how investment was going to drop in this year and stuff like that. And even how some of our current means of, like you said, of raising capital, startups here and there, necessarily isn't always recorded as FDI. So yes, I'm seeing a decline, but geez, I didn't expect this kind of decline, man, all the way negative. Yeah.
I remember seeing on the news how the airlines were complaining, Qatar Airways and all those guys, and which other one? Emirates and all of them were complaining about how they can't get the dollar out of the country. So I guess, well, you're right. It's scary because the same guy that maybe invested maybe 500 million or 200, all those guys that added up to the 3.3 in 2021, none of them even, the quick back-to-back shift year to year is very crazy.
Yeah.
Very scary.
Maybe might not be the overall sentiment, man. Towards Nigeria, because maybe investors to a certain degree just got tired of the uncertainty as far as policies were concerned regarding Nigeria, and this was just a combination of just different negative problems or issues that are going on. And this, I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens after. Well, let's see what happens after. Of course, at the end of this year, and what we see next year as far as FDIs for this year is concerned. Because like you said, it's a new government now. We're seeing a lot of changes in policies here and there, like we were talking about floating the currency, initiatives here and there, loans here and there. I mean, I know the government is not meeting with different companies. I know they're meeting likes of Shell and stuff like and ExxonMobil, and some other companies to try to further improve the foreign investments in the country, right? So it'd be interesting to see if what the numbers look like next year, right? Because it blows my mind that I don't know what the hell is going on in North Africa, man. But this Egypt guys, man, they're pulling in so much investment. Much investment. We need to actually get an expert on that Egypt market to come and really explain like why it's so attractive to investors, right? Because like I said, I'm surprised if they close the gap on startup investment this year, right? If they actually close that gap, man, because they've been closely behind us for years when it comes to investment. So there's something going on in that space that we're just missing out on. And that's something.
And it's a slight interest to know that these are net figures. So they're saying, look, all the money that was invested in Nigeria, 2023 minus money that Nigerians like invested outflow. You get. So it could actually be that there was maybe one huge sale, one huge divestment that really depressed all these numbers. And I'm thinking, no, because I know Mobil was trying to exit the country. I don't know whether government allowed them to, but that alone was close to $3 to $4 billion. Right, if they were allowed, but government was even now restricting them, which is very ugly. You try to sell, government is not allowing you to sell. So it could have literally been one or two major, what's it called, oil divestments that could have really like taken these numbers way back, and that shows how risky the country is. So one or two sale, and your FDI is net negative. Scary.
That's right. Because I don't think even because. Last year was probably the year that probably got to the final stages of the refinery, which is probably working about in total investment, probably about 20 billion or so. That's right. So I would think with that refinery alone, we should have had a lot of FDI, right? I mean, so
but I mean, with the refinery, that was over the years. It was like maybe over the past 10 years. So maybe it was tripping, drawing down some tranches every now and then.
And to be fair, Dangote did mention that they've paid a lot of the loans back on that refinery.
Yes, and those loan repayments are also outflow. So it kind of balances out in a way. It's a weird year for sure.
Yeah. From the next topic, it would be nice to actually understand. You have to understand if the problem was a reduction in investments or just a high increase in divestments. Right. So because like you said, we might have had a steady increase in what was being invested in the country, but maybe if you just like a massive sale, then that's what made it flip over.
That's the point numbers. Yeah.
Okay. I'll definitely look into that afterwards. I guess we can move on to the last topic for the day. And this is going to be a conversation, but pretty much this one I thought was interesting. There's a report I wrote out this week on YC Combinator, right? And so for those who don't know what YC is, or Y Combinator, sorry. Y Combinator is they're a well-known accelerator program. Then the startup economy, pretty much what they do is they have different accelerator programs that help nurture and grow startups into enterprises, right? So they were founded in 2005. They have been in this space for a while, and you have the likes of startups like Coinbase, Stripe. I mean, Stripe is one of the most notable portfolio companies. But a lot of this company came through that program, right? So YC is a very known program. But pretty much they wrote out a report this week on that top 50 startups by revenue, based on revenue, right? Yeah. And only African tech startup that made an analysis was Wave. And for those who don't know, Wave is pretty much a fintech platform, offers cross-border payments and money transfer stuff across borders, right? For low fees and low cost. Mm-hmm. Now, Wave is based in Francophone Africa, right? So they're actually based in Senegal. I mean, they're primarily based in Senegal, but I think they primarily operate in Francophone Africa, right? So so pretty much what we thought was interesting is Wave was the only African startup on that list. Of course, you had the likes of, because when you look at the numbers, like numbers are quite alarming. But before diving into that, what's your take on this? Like, do you find that alarming in the sense that they probably have in the past, we had startups like Florida Wave, right, who made it on that list, and Florida Wave is probably the one of the most notable unicorns out of that, right? And they didn't make that list this year, right? So, what's your take on this?
So, I thought that was strange. I thought it was scary. The first thing that came to my mind, though, because maybe I'm so positive about Nigerian startups, because we raise the most money, investors keep coming here. So I think our growth is the fastest and our market is the biggest. What could be the real difference, I think, here is currency. If Wave, the largest market is Francophone Africa, then maybe they're more exposed to, maybe they have a better currency. So when you convert it to dollar, I think YC is using obviously dollars to run with guys. Maybe that's why in dollar terms, it seems that they are making more than Flutter Wave. That's it's a strong reach as far as why I think the reason is. But that could be one. Other than that, another potential reason is the other Flutter Waves and guys, they have a huge dip in performance this past year. That's the second potential. And I can't really see why. I know we talk about FDI, but like further in transaction processing, kind of the same transactions happen in the country. So I don't see why they'll have a huge dip in revenue. But thirdly, I know you've hinted at this before, it's like as they're trying to become more clean and by the books and getting more accounting processes intake, did they have a change in revenue recognition? And did that weed out all the audio revenue? That's an interesting. So those three is what comes to my mind as potential reasons.
So that's fair. And it's something like you said, right? Because then again, even when you want to look more into it, it's like there's not a. I guess Paystack wouldn't be on there because Paystack is not part of Stripe, so they might be reporting directly under Stripe's revenue. Now I don't know how Crypto 360 and the likes of Cowrie Rise. I mean, those are also startups that Y Combinator has invested in, right? And they didn't make this list. So it's, I don't know, like I find it quite interesting. I mean, like, I guess Wave just has that much pull. I guess they have that much market share in Francophone Africa because keep in mind, this is top 50 for a whole of Y Combinator, global Y Combinator, right? So like these are like big boys. These are big players in that space, right? So their revenue must be really, now I don't know about profitability, but at least their revenue, I know revenue must be really high. Now I don't necessarily know how much they've raised in total capital, in total funding since the inception. And I don't know if they're profitable or not. And that's the funny thing about startup, because even these guys didn't publish the revenues, right? So like these guys didn't, Y Combinator, when they published, they didn't actually talk about the revenue per startup.
Right? Yeah, that's fishing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and had like to keep these things private, right? But like all that we know is in total, like these 50 startups, right? Combined, they had a combined revenue of $40 billion. So they had a combined revenue of $50 billion in revenue for last year. And in total, they had raised about $40 billion, right? So, so that kind of gives
those is quick side. I think Stripe is the crazy outlier in these numbers because they've raised like tens of billions, and they're probably the ones also pulling that revenue closer to the 40 billion. But it's a very interesting observation.
I'm surprised this Stripe is probably like 50% of their revenue analysis or something. Yeah, I mean, they can be. I mean, Stripe is not pulling in 25 billion in revenue, but I'm pretty sure Stripe's probably touching about at least 5 billion in revenue. I'm surprised they're talking about 5 billion.
They're definitely pulling the funds raised. They're pulling that number. The revenue number, maybe 10%.
Because they've raised a lot in revenue. Like they've raised a lot in funding. Like they probably raised probably the next step just doesn't go public at this point. Right. I also
before they finish all the alphabets.
Bro,
A, B, C, D, E.
There is a lot. And it's even also worth to note that of that list, right, only 22% of those startups on that top 50 list actually have offices located outside the US. So those companies, I mean, most of those companies are actually based in the US on that top 15 list, right? So it just shows how if it's those 22%, like that's like 1 in 5, right? That's like 1 in 5. So it just shows how the non-US market is still very developing. It's still not as high. So the fact that we've actually made that list is actually quite impressive. And that's if the numbers are actually here, if they're accurate, then that means they're actually quite impressive, right? If you're talking about 1 in 5. So I think it was. I think something that we should give them the respect for. Being that in Francophone Africa hasn't necessarily always gotten as much attention as West Africa, Nigeria, or North Africa, Egypt, and Morocco, and all these guys. And these guys are actually putting this now. This might be a huge positive thing for them, because now investors might see this themselves. You know what? This is the sleeping giant, right? Francophone Africa is a sleeping giant. Let's not look into those areas. Why is Wave doing this? How can we tap into that market and look for other deals like this, right? Because I mean, at the end of the day, and or maybe the problem now is that there's just less competition there, right? That Wave has gotten so much market share. Yeah. Because in Nigeria, it's like everybody literally has a fintech, right? So like everybody's competing. If it's not OP, is Florida. If not Florida, is Paystack. If not Paystack, is Mono. If it's not Mono, is but there is so many. There are so many. Always here. One to the other one is raising capital share. So maybe our market is kind of oversaturated. And these Wave guys are just like, now we are completely dominating Francophone Africa, like we are the only guys here. I don't know. But I just know Francophone Africa doesn't get as much traction as outside. So maybe that's why these guys are able to just completely dominate that market, because the other small players don't necessarily have as much access to capital as we do in West Africa.
Yeah.
So not West Africa, but in the Nigeria / North Africa area. So yeah, I think it's definitely something. But I mean, having said all that, it's a quite impressive feat. I'm really happy for them. And I'm surprised if over the next couple of years, I mean, with this kind of, if the revenue is actually this high, I'm surprised if over the next couple of years the stock can go in public as well in the New York Stock Exchange.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, it's already impressive. They're already an outlier. I mean, only 22% not in the US, and one of them is in Africa. Yeah. That's very impressive already. And we have to give them some more props. If it was an Nigerian startup, that would be all over the news. We really milk the story and all of that. So I think we give Wave lots of props of what they're doing. They definitely have something interesting there. It's something to keep looking out for, and Francophone Africa in general.
No, for sure. And I keep in mind, like the main product is the whole cross-border payments, right? So transfer of funds from here to there. Converting currencies from native currency to either euros or dollars or pounds and stuff, right? I mean, that's the main stuff. Now keep in mind that stuff really works just because of the whole parallel market. Have you had this conversation about parallel markets, floating your currency and stuff? Now, do you think that model might be heavily affected when a lot of these African nations start floating their currencies?
Yeah, definitely could be. But I mean, I think I'm correct. Senegal, I think they're under the franc. That's their currency. I think the whole block.
Yeah, they're under the franc.
Yeah, and they have a strong peg into what's it called, to euro, to the French euro, whatever. So most of their reserves, they have a weird relationship with France.
Yeah.
So their currency will always kind of be managed.
Yeah. But then again, I don't think. I still think at the end of the day, like Wave probably has a heavy presence, not just in Senegal, but other like Francophone countries. Now you might be right; all those countries might be pegged to France's currency. I mean, is it franc? I think.
No. So their own currency is called franc. As all those guys in the Francophone Africa.
Well, yeah,
so I think they use a single currency franc.
France is euros, right?
So France is euros. So but they have a relationship where they must keep some part of their reserve with France, with euros. So that makes that currency kind of correlate with the euros in a stable way. Yeah.
That's fair. But yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, it's quite impressive. over the next couple of years, I'll be surprised if they start doing their rounds and trying to go public when it's something like right next step. But okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, any final thoughts on this news?
No, just I guess the main highlight is let's take it for what it is as opposed to being too skeptical and praise them. But it's not news about Nigeria, it's news about them. So it's not for us to start talking about why didn't XYZ make it. That's an in-house discussion. But it's a nice observation. But I think the main news for me, the main takeaway is look, Wave is amazing. Let's keep an eye out for them. You feel me?
Absolutely. So yeah, I think that's pretty much what we had. I mean, on the lighter note, are there any deals that were closed this week? Any startups that raised capital I need to highlight? I know Aura Capital invested about $2 million in Tastizers or something like that. I don't know this startup, but some of that sort, right? But I mean, but there's a $2 million investment from Aura Capital. It's good to see them back up, and I know they probably were quiet for a little bit, so it's good to see them now deploy some capital. But are there any other deals that really happened this week that's worth highlighting?
None come to mind, and no current raise that I'm aware of. Like we said, if you're currently raising those, reach out to us. So we'll give you a shout out on the podcast. But yeah, the Around news was interesting. I think it's FMCG, like the product the company that invested in. I think they're into like either food or consumer goods.
Yeah, food. Yeah,
food. Yeah, and Around themselves just closed their own fund, like maybe a couple months ago, 3 months ago. So it's good that they're already deploying capital. That's very impressive of them.
Nice. That's good. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Now this was a fun conversation. I know we spent a lot of time trying to get the setup right this time. I actually hope the video came out a lot better than usual. But ultimately, once again, thank you all for listening. It's been a fun conversation, probably longer than we wanted it to be, but then again, that's what happens when you're having fun, right? I mean, you lose track of time. But yeah,
exactly.
Always a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure. Any fun plans for the weekend? Or just...
Bro, I almost forgot to, like, this is Saturday. Like, I was just thinking tomorrow is Monday again, back to the grind. So that's how every day feels like. So when I see weekend, I was like, give me like next weekend. Man.
I know that. I mean, it was a short week, so maybe we cannot finish for you yet. You already have 2 days. You have 2 days left. Just work Saturday and Sunday. Complete your 5. That's a weird one, man. Now enjoy your weekend, man. Just relax. Don't worry. I mean, things will eventually ramp up. So when you have this time to just cool off, man. Cool off.
Exactly.
But
all right,
yeah,
man. Well, have a good one. The Squord guys, you guys know Double golfs a lot, so you're probably going to go, off golfing. We should do like a golf hangout one of these days, actually.
Squord. I need to get you to the Austin festival, so I need to get you back to Austin.
Yeah.
But we'll probably like a group, like some kind of hangout session. I'm always good every now and then. I went last week. I went twice last week. I might go this week again. But yeah, I was a little bit rusty last week, so I'm trying to work on some of my swings here and there because it was quite embarrassing. But yeah, but now, of course, when next year in town, we'll definitely hit the course. But yeah, Mayor of Lagos, my pleasure. Have a good one. Stay blessed. To the listeners, thank you once again for listening. Like I say, if you feel free to share, click the link below.
Share, feedback, comments, everything.
Click the link below, like, subscribe, and share. But there's no link, but you guys get the gist. But once again, it's a pleasure. You have a blessed weekend. Let us know if you have any comments, questions, and we're here for you. See you same time next week.